And I want you all to know that we are fighting the fake news.
In the age of fake news and alternative facts, how can mainstream news media mitigate damaged credibility and retain audience trust? Here is a sample of what journalists face. A quote from the president as reported by Fox News.
President Trump broadened his attack on the press this week using his favorite venue, Twitter. So much fake news being put in dying magazines and newspapers. Only place worse may be NBC News, CBS News, ABC, and CNN. Fiction writers.
Comments like this prompt media experts and journalists to weigh in.
Mr. President, the media is not fake news.
As a threat to media as an industry is we really do have our survival on the line here. If we can't find a way to build credibility and to hold on to these audiences, we're not going to make it.
What do the allegations of fake news mean for journalism and its future?
Clearly, having a verified, factual, and trustworthy source of information is critical to democracy.
Deb Wenger is a former assistant news director for a Tampa TV station. She says we have reached the point of an all-hands-on-deck time in journalism history.
Every news organization, every journalist, every member of the public needs to be thinking about how can I be sure that I'm informing myself with legitimate information.
Wenger, now a professor and assistant dean at the University of Mississippi, says whether or not you think the president is right, or whether or not you believe there is fake news,
clearly, there is misinformation being spread by individuals, sometimes inadvertently by news organizations, and we all have to do our part to stem that flow of false information.
A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are.
The war is being won by those with the loudest megaphone, with 38 million Twitter followers.
Former TV news reporter and now professor at Marshall University, Chris Swindell, says repeating the label of fake news has caused fake news itself to become a means to deflect objective reality.
Then I think it has larger implications, not just for the journalists, but for the republic.
It is the definition of fake news.
CNN's Jake Tapper has served as chief Washington correspondent since 2016. Here is an excerpt from his show, The Lead with Jake Tapper.
This is America, and you can believe whatever you want to believe. But in a thriving democracy, truth matters and facts matter. We learned in the campaign that Donald Trump can be cavalier about facts and truth.
But Tapper also told his audience it goes both ways.
There's also a lot of incendiary nonsense against President Trump on the left these days that is just as fake and just as free of any evidence, both in progressive media and all over Twitter, being retweeted by otherwise sensible folks.
President Trump says he is not against all media.
I'm not against the press. I don't mind bad stories if I deserve them. But I am only against the fake news media or press. I'm against the people that make up stories and make up sources.
Speaking at the Broadcast Education Association's annual conference, Syracuse University doctoral student John Borden described 3 types of fake news.
There are fake news accusations that politicians may use to undermine criticisms of their policies or their practices. There are accidental types of fake news where news agencies, we do our best, but sometimes we just get it wrong. And then finally, most dangerously, fake news where maybe someone or some group has willfully manipulated or misrepresented the truth.
Not you, not you. Your organization's terrible.
Here's the president upon receiving a question from a CNN reporter at a press conference.
No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question. You are fake news.
Washington Post investigative journalist Bob Woodward says the reporting needs to get both facts and tone right.
The press, especially the so-called mainstream media, comes under regular attack, particularly during presidential campaigns like this one and its aftermath.
Woodward, speaking at the 2017 National Correspondents' Dinner, televised by CNN, adds, like politicians and presidents, sometimes the media make mistakes and go too far.
When that happens, we should own up to it. But the effort today to get this best obtainable version of the truth is largely made in good faith.
One of the great things about the digital age is the ability of new generations of users to generate their own content, according to John Borden.
At the same time, though, the overflow or the amount of content makes it increasingly difficult for the public to filter through and identify credible, believable sources, and to ensure that the news stories they're sharing on Twitter or Facebook are in fact communicating the truth to their friends and family.
What we want to see in the United States is honest, beautiful, free, but honest press. We want to see fair press. I think it's a very important thing. We don't want fake news. And by the way, not everybody is fake news, but we don't want fake news.
Longtime CNN host Anderson Cooper says words matter, telling his audience that fake news claims present real danger.
On this program, we try not to talk about the president's fake news jabs any more than necessary. They're clearly designed to undermine the reporting of this outlet and others that the president simply doesn't like, no matter how many sources or facts are included. But shouts of fake news are not just an annoying distraction or a political dog whistle. They are actually dangerous.
The innovation chief at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University, Eric Newton, explains what he says is the bottom line concerning fake news.
When you have major politicians around the country accusing honest, basic journalism being fake, and you have news organizations that are not jumping up and vigorously defending themselves, it's helping confuse everyone about what's real and what's not real.
One concern about fake news is people will characterize everything as fake, according to Dom Caristi, who teaches media ethics at Ball State University.
If people stop trusting news media, there's a real problem for the democracy, because where are people turning to get information about how they vote? And so my biggest concern would be, who are people trusting?
Caristi says the president has contributed to the concept of, if people don't like a story, then it is fake news. But he says social media is a contributor as well. With people reporting every minute of every day comes more room for error.
And so with those errors come the ability for people to complain and say, there was a mistake, therefore this is fake news. A single mistake doesn't necessarily characterize something as fake news. There could still be a factual error, but a lot of what is passed on as news isn't done by professionals.
The author of the book Free Speech and False Speech, Millersville University professor Rob Spicer, researched the impact of fake news.
From what I've seen, I feel like the impact has been kind of limited in that it doesn't change minds, but it certainly reinforces existing beliefs to make you question reality altogether, to the point where you stop accepting reality and truth and say, well, there's no truth out there, I'm just not even going to look. And that is just as bad than accepting everything out of hand and naively going along with whatever someone says.
With it being hard to tell what is news and what is fake, UT Arlington professor Mark Tremaine says there needs to be a mechanism to help the public.
So we're trying to come up with tools, let the reader of social media know, is this a real person, is this a robot, is this a good source, or is this a suspicious source?
Thus, media literacy is key. Ole Miss professor Deb Wenger says some of the tools available to journalists are also available to the public.
We had International Fact-Checking Day, and if you Google that, you'll find all kinds of resources for how to inform yourself so you can make sure that the information you're getting is, in fact, what it purports to be.
How do we move forward? Arizona State's Eric Newton says it will take nothing short of a major societal effort because, as he says, if you think it's bad now, wait until fabricated audio and video is perfected.
You can hear someone say something they never said, or see them say something they never said. That's really going to confuse us. Did they say it? Did they not say it? And without much larger effort in detection software and public education, we're really not going to give the public the tools it deserves to try to sort out what's real and what isn't, especially given its role in the digital age as being central to news distribution.
CNN's Jake Tapper offers his conclusion on fake news.
This is a time for all journalists to be extra careful about our own reporting, to make sure that we adhere strictly to facts and cogent analysis. And this is a time for you, the public, to demand evidence from your leaders and from your media, even if you already agree with the politics of the person on your TV.
Fake news erodes journalistic credibility and predisposes the audience to believe future deceptions. It is up to reporters to dispel rumors, half-truths, and downright lies through old-fashioned journalistic detective work. I'm Terry Likes. You're listening to Tennessee Matters on the Tennessee Radio Network.